Monday edition, Mr. Relevant, presented by Door County Distillery. I'm Alex Strouf with you from the Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all studio at the Avenue downtown Milwaukee. Josh DiMaggio is here. Intern Will is here. Maddie Hayes is here running the social media. We've got a whole crew today. Hunter Vaughn, Tiny Hands back at the Everlight Solar Studio downtown Madison. Lots to react to, including the city of Madison, which we will do a bit later in the program as the Badgers lose again on Friday to Minnesota. Their season is over, at least we think at the time being, at 5-7. Their 22-year bowl streak likely snapped unless they get an invite as a 5-7 team. They're a big program. They travel well. They might get an invite, but no asterisk here. Their 22-year bowl streak is over, and it is pathetic. So we will talk Badgers a little bit later. But I can't come back from a holiday vacation on a bad note, on a sad note, right? We got to talk about the happy stuff. And we will start with the Green Bay Packers, who take care of business Thursday night, Thanksgiving night, against the Miami Dolphins. Packers now 9-3 as they get ready to play again this Thursday night at Detroit. Biggest game remaining on their schedule is on Thursday. Packers win. All of a sudden you go, whoa, they might have a shot to win the NFC North. They lose, it's wild card time. And we will talk with our buddy Rob Demovsky, ESPN NFL Nation reporter covering the Packers a bit later, about that game, as well as a little bit of a recap on Thursday. Of course, we will do stock down, stock up as well in just a moment. But the takeaway is this, right? 9-3, you're in third place of the NFC North, which is bonkers still, right? Because Vikings 10-2, Lions 11-1. Both teams find ways to survive over the weekend in games that were certainly losable for both of them. Detroit on Thursday against Chicago. Matt Eberflus gets canned because he can't manage a clock, and ultimately loses that game to Detroit, which makes them advance to 11-1. The Vikings find a way to get it done yesterday, as they are now 10-2, and the Packers in third place at 9-3. This division is terrific. I still don't buy the Vikings. I definitely buy the Lions. And I think I'm buying more Packers than I ever have, at least so far this season. This is now 2 games in a row for the Packers, dating back to the San Francisco game last week and, of course, on Thursday against Miami, where this team has just frankly taken care of business and beaten teams they should beat in ways they should beat them, which is commanding ways to win for the Packers in each of the last 2 games. Some of the impressive stuff for the Packers. Once again, no turnovers offensively, which was certainly a struggle and an issue throughout the season, but Jordan Love has stayed clean each of the last 2 games, which is something that we were kind of all waiting for, as Love was missing games and still leading the league in interceptions, now has gone 2 in a row without throwing one. And that's an encouraging sign, because I think, again, the takeaway after Thanksgiving's game was Jordan Love looks like Jordan Love of last year. Jordan Love looks like a quarterback that is worthy of the big paycheck he's getting. And, you know, the fun version of this Packers team is it's not all reliant on Jordan Love, but there are things Love is asked to do, and he's made some plays. But Josh Jacobs has become the big part of this offense. Thursday was more in the passing game than it was in the running game, but still over 100 all-purpose yards for Josh Jacobs once again. I don't think you can oversell how big he's been for this team. You know, I don't want to say their whole identity changed offensively, but he has provided an exceptional amount of carries and production since he's taken over as the lead back in Green Bay. And we'll talk with Rob about this, but, you know, I still reflect a lot on the decision to move on from Aaron Jones, right? Because Jones was obviously a great running back, especially when he was healthy. But he couldn't do what Josh Jacobs is doing and stay healthy. That's just not what Aaron Jones is capable of. Now, I know this year he's been healthy in Minnesota for the most part. I think he's only missed 1 game. But he's not capable of owning teams' defenses the way Josh Jacobs has the last few games, and I imagine will continue to down the stretch as we get into the colder months and the colder games here as we enter December. Josh Jacobs' impact is going to continue to be felt. So cannot overstate how important Josh Jacobs has been to this team's success offensively, but it has also helped Love get more comfortable, help Love minimize mistakes, and really eliminate a lot of mistakes the last couple of games. Completion percentage has gone up, interceptions have gone down, passing touchdowns have remained the same. So all in all, this has been a good revival of sorts for Jordan Love the last few weeks. But we're finally, I think, seeing the Packers team we knew they were capable of, which is beating up on teams you should beat. Miami is still a team that could be a playoff team. San Francisco could technically still be a playoff team. And while both of them dealing with injuries and maybe not as high-powered and not as good as they've been in the last few years, still potent offenses. And the Packers' defense played really well against both of them. Minimized points, and the offense maximized points in each of those games. And pretty much put those things to bed at halftime each of the last 2 weeks. Now, that's not at all what I expect coming up on Thursday, but the last 2 weeks are also not what I expected going in. So walking away from Thursday and having a few nights to sleep on it and really digest what we saw on Thursday is the Packers took care of business, and they're a damn good football team. We're finally seeing what we've been hoping to see, and that is a huge positive for the Green Bay front. Now, when it comes to Thursday, yeah, I'm nervous. I still think Detroit's the best team in the NFL. But as we saw a year ago, Packers lost big early in the season at Lambeau Field, responded late November, and for this one it'll be early December, responded on the road in Detroit, punched them right back in the mouth and said, hey, we're a pretty good football team. So we will see what comes Thursday, but yeah, of course I'm a little bit nervous when it comes to Thursday against the Detroit Lions. Let's bring in some of the fellas. Joshy DiMaggio is here. Hunter Vaughn is here. Joshy, I'm just a couple days removed. I am very impressed with the way in which the Packers won that game on Thursday, albeit against an under 500 now Miami team. But a win's a win, and when you win in the fashion in which they did, it's super impressive for a good football team.
Yeah, I've grown sick and tired of people complaining about or saying who have they beat. Good football team, bad football teams don't have the record the Packers do, and don't win the way they have the past couple of weeks. They are what seems to be, and we've been waiting for it for a long time, building to the team that we thought they could be. We thought you have to eliminate some mistakes. You have to play a little more efficiently. And the Packers are still certainly making mistakes. Virtually nobody's playing mistake-free football. But all signs are pointing towards the upward trajectory we all hoped and we're all looking for. And if you were to tell the story of the Packers finishing the rest of the season with maybe one loss, two losses, everyone's happy with that record. And in most years, that would be good enough to win your division. I don't think that's really part of the consideration anymore for the Packers, even with this game. I think if the Packers go undefeated the rest of the way, they still only have a 36% chance of winning the division.
Yeah, because that would mean Detroit needs to at least drop another one.
But I do think the record of 12-5 or 13-4, that gets you probably the top wild card spot, and you are playing some teams that I think you would be favored on against the on the road. Yeah, because you'd likely see in that first round either the NFC South or NFC West winner. Yes.
If you're the 5 seed, likely the West.
Correct.
And who's that? Seattle,
Cardinals,
Rams.
Or if you're looking at the South, you're looking at Buccaneers or Falcons.
I don't believe in the Falcons.
I don't believe in any of the teams we named.
I mean, I don't either.
Yeah.
A team I could see putting up a decent fight is Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I think they could be frisky, but that's too could be.
Oh, what was that word?
Frisky. It's not one word.
It's frisky. Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals and the Bucs are the frisky offense in the NFC of teams that aren't that good.
Yeah.
But can they stick with you in terms of points? Yeah.
At some point, like, the Packers are just a good team. They're just getting better. We saw what was happening, and I thought it was very apparent on Thursday. The Dolphins were trying that dink and dunk crap and, like, not really running an offense. And then the Packers turn around, punch you in the mouth, and then throw 40 yards downfield.
Yep.
And you've got no answer. Teams have to play near flawless football. The Packers build themselves in the ability to make mistakes by getting huge chunk plays. And then they're opportunistic and create turnovers and help themselves that way. So it's a good recipe with the way the Packers have built out this team and are running their offense.
Yeah, no, it certainly has been. And to your point on this just being a flat-out good team, right? 9-3, you're through 12 games. Even if you are a good team, and we've seen this plenty of times in years past with the Packers, is by this point in the season, as you enter the month of December, there's usually one bad loss on your schedule. You go, we shouldn't have lost to that team. I don't think you can really do that with the 3 losses the Packers have. Right? The Eagles in the opener, weird condition, weird game. But Philly's only lost 2 games this year. They're a very good team. Your other loss is to Minnesota. You were shorthanded, admittedly. And despite what the score says, you got your ass kicked, right? It says it was a 2-point loss. It was 28-0, right? But you responded well in the second half. A loss is a loss. It's a bad loss, but it's still to a good team in terms of record, right? 10-2 is a good team. And then your other loss to the Lions. And I don't think anybody's looking at that and going, wow, they shouldn't have lost that game, right? So this is not me saying they're the 4th best team in the NFC. It's more me saying, at this point in the season, you typically have one game on your schedule where you go, they should have never lost that game. And that doesn't exist yet. And I don't know that it will, because I think this team, at worst, absolute worst, goes 3-2 in their last 5. Yeah. And I think that's the worst they go. I think it's probably more like 4-1 or undefeated down, is that a good thing? Do you want to win 8 in a row going into the postseason?
It depends on how it looks, I guess. If you've got a couple Bears game wins in there where it's last second or by you're hanging on by a thread. But I don't think anybody watching the Detroit Lions is going, man, I'd really like them to lose at some point here, because they, at various points of the season, look like just an unstoppable force. They let the Bears back in, but they have won with style points like 6 different times this season.
They sure have.
And I think everyone's happy and not really waiting for the other shoe to drop. I also think that's part of us as being damaged from the success of, we're trying to find reasons why the Packers haven't gone as far as we want. And most oftentimes it's they just weren't good enough, not like bad luck.
Here's the thing that irritates me with the Lions. Their best player is out for the season. Debatably. Aiden Hutchinson. Right? He's been out for weeks. Okay? It seems like the injury bug's starting to hit him a little bit, right? Like David Montgomery was questionable going into Thursday's game with a shoulder injury. David Montgomery still carried the ball 21 times on Thursday. Like, they're just that good. And when you think, okay, maybe the Bears will get them, the Bears do what the Bears do best, and that is lose football games.
Yes.
And now, head coach's employment on top of that, as Matt Eberflus was fired on Friday. By the way, quick side note on that, Joshy and Hunter, I would be curious on your thoughts on this, because it's looking like your head coach might save his job, and Mike McCarthy, as a Cowboys fan. Big win on Thursday. He might save his job. The thing with the Bears, we've always known they're a poorly run organization. We know they are inept. We know they are awful in multiple capacities, right? More ways than one. The mismanagement of the Matt Eberflus firing is unbelievably funny. So Thursday they lose due to poor clock management. They leave the game with a timeout remaining. He essentially says in his post-game interview, yeah, I thought we did it the right way. I thought we handled things the right way. He doubled down on stupid, right? So then Friday rolls around. And they have availability on Friday morning. Matt Eberflus does a press conference on Friday morning with the Chicago media, and then is fired a half an hour later. He was already a dead man walking, right? Like, because the Bears don't really fire coaches midseason. It's the first time in over 100 years they've done it. So Eberflus was probably operating under the idea of, okay, I'll see this season through. We're clearly not going to make the playoffs anymore. I'll take the bullets, and then I'll leave. They sent him out as a dead man walking, and then literally killed him a half an hour later. That's insane.
So, from speaking to Jim Rutledge, the Bears, one of the many Bears fans here in the Madison office.
What's the spin?
Well, apparently it was they had the meeting to fire him, but they were making sure they had everything else lined up as far as, okay, who's taking over? Like, legally, are there any issues? Like, all of that kind of stuff. And then Eberflus was just like, I'm still just going to go and do it. Like, Eberflus knew that they were having those meetings and those conversations, and he still chose to go out there and meet. That's according to Jim Rutledge, Bears fan. But still, like, why are you going out there? Like, I'm canceling it, man. Like, I don't owe the Bears anything if I'm Eberflus, and I'm just saying, we're not going to do it today. Let everyone else start speculating about what we knew was going to happen. Like, he did himself no favors by doing that.
I kind of love it, actually. But no, I don't. I mean, that's just sad. It's pathetic. Can I feel bad for Bears fans or no? Joshy, you've told me no in the past.
Yeah, no, of course not. What's there to feel bad about?
Because it's not their fault.
It is. If you stop supporting them, they'd be forced to change the ownership. And I know that's a far-fetched idea and crazy and probably will never really happen in an NFL franchise. But I think with their behavior, the Bears fans have earned everyone laughing at them because they were a playoff. Just listen to the way they talk about the team that has never played the way that they expect.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe learn something from your past mistakes.
Yeah, but you can't just jump ship. That's
if I was a Bears fan, I would not be one by now. I want to say that. Browns fan wouldn't be one either. Sorry, not doing it. I refuse to suck this much.
Is there any other teams? Commanders?
That one would have been tough. That one, but I would a change in hand and ownership probably would be enough to make me go, all right, I'll look at this team again, or I'll entertain it. But call me fake fan or whatever you want to call me. I'm not going to give my time or money to a team that doesn't bring me any joy.
Okay, so I guess I'll ask you this last thought on this before we get the stock up, stock down. Will you watch the Monday Night Football game tonight? It is the Browns at the Broncos.
I would rather have my fingernails removed by hand than watch that game.
That was graphic.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Take out a pair of pliers and remove my
that's enough of
fingernails
that.
from the bed.
That's enough of that. Yeah. I mean, it's a fair thought. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted.
I will have some underdog on it though. Just cause.
You just won't watch it.
Yeah, it's correct.
All right, so I've got this golden rule of radio, and I think Hunter's going to get after me for bringing it up. Nobody gives a damn about your fantasy football team, right? I've always said this.
No.
Guess what I'm going to tell you about?
No.
Don't.
Just real quick. It's real fast. It's real fast. So
you know how you put everyone else on a 60 count timer? You need to put yourself on one.
60 seconds?
Yes. I have heard so many rants from you over the years about no one cares about it. Why do radio guys do this? And now you're about to do this.
Yeah, they don't. And look, I know they don't, but I need everybody to understand the poop that will be in my drawers tonight, okay? Good hook? All right, here we go. Time starts in 3, 2, 1. All right, so guillotine fantasy football. It essentially goes like this. There are 18 teams at the start of the year. Every week, the lowest scoring team gets eliminated. I am one of 6 teams left. And I am currently in the second to last place. I have a 13.03 point lead. And I just flipped off Ashton Rotman. Forgot I was on camera for a moment. He flipped me off first. How much time I got left? 35 seconds. We're good. I have a 13.03 point lead. Who's the receiver, Joshy? Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton on the lowest scoring team. Do I win or do I lose?
I don't know. I wasn't listening. I heard you mention Cortland Sutton. Do you win or lose? For what you did right now, I hope you lose.
Okay. Hunter?
I tuned you out and was accepting a ticket transfer for a Badgers basketball game. So you could have said whatever you wanted and I wouldn't have listened at all.
All right, guys. Thanks. Thanks for making me feel better about it. Appreciate that. It's really good stuff. Badgers basketball game.
Did we learn a lesson?
They play Michigan tomorrow. Is that the game you're going to?
Yeah. The wife and I are going to the game. So was just accepting those tickets.
Big Ten opener.
Yeah.
Number 13 team in the country. Yeah. They play number 5 on Saturday. Big one. Is it phony if I wear a split shirt? If I wear a half Marquette, half Badger shirt on Saturday? Yes. Phony?
Yeah, you got to pick one.
Okay. Which side are you picking? You're Marquette?
Oh, of course. Marquette all the way.
But you're going to the Badgers game tomorrow to support the Badgers.
Yeah, because they're not playing Marquette Wednesday night or Tuesday night.
Okay, so I went to the Marquette game on Saturday against Western Carolina. I wore a Marquette shirt. That's fair game.
Yeah, you just have to pick a side that one day.
Okay, but I don't want to. I like them both. I hope everybody has fun.
Okay, then I guess you have to get a shirt that says I'm rooting for a tie.
It's an idea. You know what else is an idea? Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, award-winning spirits made locally in beautiful Door County. Holidays are still here, man. I know we just finished one. We've got plenty more coming up at the end of the month. Elevate your holiday gathering, Door County Distillery. It's the age-old debate. Brandy old-fashioned or whiskey old-fashioned? You can do both with Door County Distillery. 27-time gold medal award-winning single malt whiskey or the cherry brandy made with local Door County cherries. You can't go wrong either way. Pick them up at a retailer nearest you and find unique cocktail recipes on their website, DoorCountyDistillery.com. We step aside for 60 seconds. When we return, stock up, stock down ahead of the Lions game. Rob Demovsky of ESPN. And we're just going to roll in it like pigs do, man. Badgers 5-7. They lose 5 in a row to end the season. They get embarrassed by Minnesota on their home field. It's bad. We have reached rock bottom, so we're just going to roll in it after Rob Demovsky joins us. I'll still ahead. It's Mr. Relevant Man. Fall is here, and once again it has me asking the question, where in the world is Door County Distillery today? It brings me to the great Liberty Station off the Beltline in Madison. Let's go into Liberty Station. Always a good time to enjoy a Door County Distillery Old Fashioned made with the delicious cherry brandy, which of course is infused with famous cherries from Door County. Whether you're making an old fashioned, just splashing in some lemon or lime juice, or just mixing it with a soda, nothing better than the cherry brandy from Door County Distillery. You can enjoy it everywhere, whether it's a tailgate, a holiday gathering, or you're sitting out at the patio right here at Liberty Station. Do it right with the Door County Distillery Cherry Brandy. Check out their website with a huge list of unique cocktail recipes at DoorCountyDistillery.com. That's DoorCountyDistillery.com. Yeah, it's DoorCountyDistillery.com. All right, we do this every week after the Packers game. We'll do it again on Friday after the Thursday night game in Detroit. Take a look at some of the players who played well and have their stock going up in the right direction. We look at players on the other side with their stock going down in the other direction. If you've never seen us do this before, this is not an overall indication. This is a one-game measurement of each of these players. Players who stuck out in a good way, players who stuck out in a bad way, and maybe, for the stock ups, more to come. Let's start with stock up. We'll start with last year's first-round pick. Lucas Van Ness, stock up, gets after the quarterback again this week against Miami. Had another sack against Tua Tagovailoa. It was technically his first career start. It was his first time introduced at Lambeau Field as a starter, and makes an impact. The Packers got after Tua 5 times on Thursday, but Lucas Van Ness seemingly taking a step in the right direction after Joshy had a laundry list of statistics that didn't seem like Lucas Van Ness was playing very well. I thought Thursday he looked pretty good and obviously had the sack to help that thought. But I'd still like to see more out of him, but a sack is a sack. He'll take it every day of the week. And it seems like maybe more reps for him is a good thing. Joshy, thoughts on LVN?
It's not uncommon for players to need that one play or one thing to happen to kind of set the course correction for them. At no point would I ever consider myself rooting against LVN. I think a good LVN makes the Packers a really good football team. So it was good to see him win the way he did, where I believe it was I don't know which running back it was, that was trying to help on that block that he had already beat, and he just threw him. And throwing another grown man across the field to get a sack is going to translate no matter what.
Sure is. Yeah. More of that, please.
Yes.
Would be my request, especially on Thursday. Do that like 7 times.
Yeah. I mean, a sack a game I'd be happy with.
Oh, for sure. You're happy if anybody does that. Especially a former first-round pick who's been rather underwhelming thus far in his career. So, good sign for LVN. Hope that continues to trend up for him. Let's go to stock down. My guy, Emmanuel Wilson. Chris Brooks has effectively taken his role. He only had 2 carries on Thursday, and I think he had 1 reception on Thursday. Chris Brooks, and I get it was a revenge game, so maybe this is a one-off, as Chris Brooks played last year with the Miami Dolphins. But, I mean, he's like kind of like having a 6-0 lineman out there. He's really good in pass protection, Chris Brooks is. It's one of the highlights of his game. But he's quick, he's agile, had the big carry, had a couple of catches. I like what Chris Brooks is doing, but that takes time away from Emmanuel Wilson. It also makes you wonder if/when Marshawn Lloyd returns to action, what does that do for Emmanuel Wilson? What does that do for Chris Brooks? And what does that do ultimately for Marshawn Lloyd? That's a question I wonder, but I think we're still a couple of weeks away from that following appendicitis for the rookie running back out of USC. All in all, stock down for Emmanuel Wilson. Not really his fault. He just wasn't on the field, which makes me think the coaches have a stock down or a neutral stock on Emmanuel Wilson.
Yeah, I don't even know if Emmanuel Wilson's stock has gone down as much as Chris Brooks has continued to rise, because I don't recall anything Emmanuel Wilson did less. He's just playing less, and that's a good thing. It will be interesting to see if maybe the Packers just call it quits on Marshawn Lloyd's season and just trying
redshirt him.
just essentially like you don't want. One of the things about Marshawn Lloyd coming out of college was he has a tendency to put the ball on the ground.
He does.
With the two guys you have behind Josh Jacobs, you feel pretty good about them. And I don't think you want to start entering because didn't he in like his first NFL touch actually end up fumbling?
Yes.
So there's a part of me that they probably go, let's just retry next year.
Yeah, give him a couple more months.
We're happy with what we got right now. We still believe in you.
Yeah, the only way I'd say, hey, let's change that tune is if there's an injury to Brooks or Wilson, because then you're going to want a guy down the stretch. And we remember how good a guy like James Starks was for the Packers,
of course,
during their Super Bowl run. So, did you just yawn mid-response?
I did.
Am I boring you that much?
No, it just struck me out of nowhere.
Okay, you okay?
Doing good. This is a long weekend.
Yeah, it was.
I hosted a damn Friendsgiving.
I thought you hated Friendsgiving and wanted nothing to do with it.
Hate it.
Wait a minute. Stock up the Friendsgivings for a moment.
Stock down.
Josh, you said last week you will never participate in a Friendsgiving.
Yeah, unless they're hosted at my house, I guess.
So I obviously this was not your call.
It had nothing to do with it.
Were they your friends?
Yes.
So like shared friends, our friends, you could say.
Shared
the
friends.
missus.
Yes. I put it.
What do you
this
call
way.
her? Medusa.
Mussolini.
Mussolini. That's it.
Medusa was when you look in the eye, you turn into stone. I believe.
I was pretty close. I like it.
I didn't get to issue a single invite.
Oh,
so if that puts it into context.
Did you have to cook?
I did not have to cook, but I had to clean, and I had to do the grocery shopping.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I had to buy ham for 12 people. That's expensive as hell. I don't even want these people in my house.
How much was this ham?
It's like $60-some.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah.
Stock up / stock down to
my bank account stock down.
yeah, true that.
Gonna need to hit on some underdog.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, brother, don't get me going.
Yeah, we'll get you going after Rob. All right, let's wrap this up quick. Stock up to Jaden Reed. Got in the end zone 2 times, 3 catches, 24 yards. Didn't have a ton of yards, but got points, and that one matters as Jaden Reed continues to establish himself as the top receiver on the Packers roster. Watson had some good moments, too, in this game, but Jaden Reed getting in the end zone twice, worth a little bit more in my eyes. So Jaden Reed stock back up for him after being a stock down a few weeks back. Stock down goes to J.J. Enagbare, the edge rusher. And look, I've always liked what I've seen out of Enagbare. I've actually had faith he could be a really nice piece for them. You got to stop lining up offsides. Easy for me to say. Got there. Lining up offsides. I feel like he does it every week. Neutral zone infraction, 55 defense. It happens every week.
I find this interesting that you're singling him out because I think at this point every one of the edge rushers has done it.
I agree, but I think he's done it more than all of the edge rushers.
Yes, we've even had the interior defenders line up offsides, which, I mean, that guy, you're within arm's reach of the football.
So I don't get that one, but I don't get any of these, to be real honest with you.
No, you look down the line.
This is pretty easy to figure out. You would think, but they're not figuring it out.
It is one of the more confounding things I've experienced as a Packer fan. One thing I can't quite make sense of. What do you guys take a step back, brother? Come on,
step back, brother. It's that easy. It's that easy, brother.
If you're if your eyes are level with the football, you're too far upfield.
It's an accurate statement.
That's just how it goes.
It's an accurate statement.
Stop.
I want Joshy coaching one of these days. High school football or something. You should go coach like 8th grade football.
Just yeah, it'd be real easy. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
How about we stop that?
Please stop. That would be your coaching. It would be great. Stock up to TV networks. All 3 TV networks providing turkey this year after Jordan Love did not get his turkey leg last year. So good to see the Packers get an entire turkey, which Josh Jacobs ended up carrying back to the locker room. Now, also, for those of us that watch the game on TV, why was Leroy Butler cooking everything?
So there's some lore to this. Leroy Butler has his own cookbook, I believe. And Leroy Butler, he used to, I don't know if he still does, offers like private cooking where he does the cooking and you can like bring people and it's like an event. So if you plan a dinner, Leroy Butler will do the cooking and you get to talk with an NFL Hall of Famer and Packer legend.
The cookbook is only $9 on eBay.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably a
Strouf,
couple
you got to
years old
buy
at
it.
this
And
rate.
fr-
I might have to. Well, here's the thing.
From the way the food looked, it looked
looked good.
He looks like he knows what he's doing back there.
No doubt. No doubt. But I just couldn't figure out why every commercial break, we've got like this super zoomed out camera in this empty room, and there's Leroy Butler just going to work. And then they tied it all together at the end of the game with him down on the field. But I was really confused watching that. And hey, it was awesome. I mean, don't get me wrong. I loved every second of it. I just kept saying every time it happened, I was watching the game in a bar in Green Bay, and I was like, what the hell's, because I couldn't hear anything. So they may have explained it. I don't know.
No, not too far.
But every commercial, there's Leroy.
Yeah.
Pulling the turkey out of the oven now.
Yeah.
Attaboy, Leroy. Anyway, that was good stuff. Finally, I'm able to admit when I'm wrong sometimes. I'm willing to do it here. Stock down to green bean casserole. It was underwhelming this year, both times I had it. I like green bean casserole. I think it's a good side dish. Both of the ones I had, not very good. A little soupy.
Who cooked them?
I don't think I want to throw people under the bus.
I feel very
I
vindicated
discovered-
right now because you were adamant that it is great.
I love green beans. I love the French onions or whatever you call them. I like soup. So put it all together. Should make a pretty good dish.
I had a discovery this weekend about green bean casserole. I like the type more that uses the canned green beans more than the real, like, whole green beans. I want mine to be like the lower class version of it. When you spruce it up and make it nice, that's when I start to enjoy it less. That's what I discovered.
Okay.
Is that because
Now
you
that
don't
might
like
be what
crunchy
happened.
green beans?
The consistency changes, and it's like a bigger bite. You got to navigate.
All right, we're done with this.
Canned green beans. Just give me them.
We're done with this.
You
Let's get to our
talked
friend
about your
Rob Demovsky.
fantasy team for a minute. Josh and I can talk about food together, okay?
Yeah, and let me be honest. People are thinking more about green beans than they are about your fantasy team.
Yep.
Cortland Sutton, good for 13 points, yes or no? That's the question today. All right, ESPN NFL Nation reporter Rob Demovsky with all the latest in Green Bay joins us now. It's Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf. All right, joining us now on Mr. Irrelevant is ESPN NFL Nation reporter Rob Demovsky. Bold, bald, beautiful. State champion father, all-state father, and great job covering the Packers, as always. Rob, I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Obviously, the Packers made the storytelling a little bit interesting. Big win over the Dolphins, despite what the score says. 30-17, but it was all Packers.
Yeah.
Are you as impressed as I am? Because I was really impressed by the way in which they won that game here now at 9-3.
Yeah, and the week before, well, it wasn't even the week before, 5 days before against the Niners, we said, well, they played well, but the Niners didn't have their quarterback, didn't have their pass rusher, didn't have their left tackle. So yeah, I think this was definitely impressive. What did they jump out to? Like 27-3?
24-3 at half, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, a really solid performance. And I think the most important thing, Alex, is just the way they've been building since that last Detroit game. You know, they're on a winning streak, but each week seems like they've gotten a little better, and we've seen a little bit more, especially from like the defensive front and the pass rush. It seems to be, I'm still not completely sold on it, but it does seem to be heading in the right direction.
Yeah, 5 sacks on Tua. You'll take it because that's definitely been the group that's been the most disappointing. And I think you and I agreed a couple weeks ago on Green Bay game day. If there's one group that's going to hold this team back from reaching its potential, it's the pass rush. And so to see it kind of start coming together is a good sign. I'm just worried about how that translates to Thursday because Detroit's really good in the offensive front.
Yeah, their offensive line is a super strength of theirs. Obviously playing at home, it's going to be tough to get to them. They're going to have the huge advantage there. But I mean, at least we've seen signs. I mean, Lucas Van Ness has gotten to the quarterback, 2 games in a row now. Rashawn Gary's starting to pick it up. Kenny Clark got into the mix a little bit there. Kingsley Enagbare, if he sides, is shown to be a pretty good pass rusher. If he's not in the neutral zone. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be the strength of this team, regardless or however far they go. But I do think it can be at least, not a total liability.
Yeah, the thing I'm intrigued with most about Thursday is, okay, yeah, we finally started to see some complimentary football. We've started to see a complete 60 minutes. Does it work in Detroit, right? And I know a lot of Packers fans, naturally, their head goes to, okay, well, they beat us earlier in the year last year. Then we went to Ford Field on Thanksgiving. We punched them in the. I just don't know if it's that simple that history repeats itself, considering especially how well Detroit's played over the last 10 plus weeks. But I think this one will look a little bit prettier than it did earlier in the year, although I'm not ready to go, hey, I think they're going to punch them in the mouth and treat them like the Niners or the Dolphins.
Remember the game in Detroit last year when they opened the game with that deep shot play to Christian Watson that we found out later Matt LaFleur he talked about it the night before. Then he woke up in the morning and said, nah, let's not do it. Jordan Love pushed back and said, no, let's go for it. They almost need something early in the game to tell them that they can have success against these guys. I think, I'm not saying they got to throw a bomb on the first play or the first series or whatever, but they've got to start in a way that tells the Lions, we're not the same team that, kind of got rolled in our own stadium last month. So, whatever that is, whether maybe it's a big run by Josh Jacobs early on, whatever the case may be, I don't think this is a team that you want to fall behind too much early and then, have to try to pass the ball. Although, Alex, their defensive front is really banged up, right? I know we know they lost Aiden Hutchinson a while back, but they've had defensive linemen come and go and get injured. Now they did add Zadarius Smith, right, since the last time we saw him. But it is not maybe necessarily as fearsome a defensive front as it could have been.
It's very true. You're never going to apologize for a team missing their best guy in Aiden Hutchinson, but it certainly doesn't help them. Now, the thing is with this 3-game winning streak is it seems like they've played most of the time with a lead, right, against the Bears, Niners, and now the Dolphins. Yeah. What do you think that looks like if they go down, let's say 10-0 Thursday, right? Like, how do they handle a situation like that? Because they've done such a nice job, LaFleur specifically, in terms of the play calling of, feeding Josh Jacobs. That opens some things up for Jay Love. If you're down, let's say, a 2-score game, all of a sudden you're relying on Love a little bit more than you have over the course of since you've returned from the bye.
Yeah, the real test if a play caller is committed to the run is if you can still call it when you're down, 2 scores or whatever. And I don't know that we've seen that yet, since they've been really dominant on the ground with Jacobs. But, there is reason to think, we'll put it this way, LaFleur has reason to think that he can be successful that way. And I remember after the 49ers game talking to Josh Myers, and he said, look, I hope we now realize that we can run the ball whenever we need to. Now, I'm not saying that, he was criticizing play calling or anything. He was not. But it just, it was his point was it's another way that they can beat teams and it doesn't always just have to be dropping back and throwing it 40 times.
Yeah. And clearly it's worked since the bye, right? I mean, this is a team despite the barely Bears win, it's still 3 in a row. You're still at 9-3. I'm curious what Rob Demovsky makes of this NFC North, dude. 30 wins between the Lions, Vikings, and Packers. The Packers are 9-3 are in third place. Yeah. I imagine this is the first time you've covered anything quite like this in terms of the NFC North.
Yeah, I think ESPN Stats and Info had a number the other day that it's the first time since I think it was 1986 that a division has had 3 9-win teams through, week 13, or last week was week 13. First time since 1986 that's happened. The other thing someone pointed out the other day, and I have not verified this, but it's a person who is pretty good with numbers, that the Packers, Vikings, and Lions, those 3 teams combined, Alex, have more wins than any other entire division combined, like all 4 teams in any other division. You add their win total up, and it's not what the 3 teams in the NFC North, top 3 in the NFC North have. So, the one thing I do wonder is Minnesota living on borrowed time. I mean, they kind of pulled one out again, the other day. If the Packers don't go into Detroit and win, you'd have to be resigned to think they're a wild card team. But that doesn't necessarily mean they can't catch Minnesota and move up a rung in the seedings.
Yeah, that one's going to be big. I think that's the 29th, so way later this month. But 17, yeah. I am really confused on that team because the record indicates they're really damn good, right? Only lost Lions and Rams, and they've won, what is it? I think 5 or 6 in a row now.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold's been really good for them, a guy that hasn't been good in past stops. So it feels fluky for them at 10-2,
Well,
but it's hard to count them out at this point because despite it being ugly wins, they're finding ways to win.
Well, and 2 years ago they did the same thing, right? Like they were winning all these one-score games, and then what happened when they got into the playoffs?
They lost to Daniel Jones, Rob.
They lost to the Giants. Yeah, exactly. So, it's a hard way to live in this league. To have to go down and try to eke it out every time, whether it's getting a stop or needing a score. But for now they're getting it done, so you got to take your hat off to them. I just don't know that works in the playoffs against better teams.
So Detroit, Philadelphia, Green Bay, in your mind, the top 3 in the NFC?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's fair to say at this point. Certainly the NFC, whoever wins the NFC West, whoever wins the NFC South, I don't think you would say would measure up. But the way the system works is, those teams get a home game, so that makes it, slightly harder for the Packers or a road wildcard team to go in there and win.
I'm curious from like a journalistic, but also just being a fan of football perspective. Is it nice knowing you're going to have fresh blood more than likely now with the Niners at 5-7? They lose again yesterday. I mean, obviously they've been dominant. They've been the team to beat in the NFC the last couple of years. So for you, is it like, okay, we get something fresh and the Packers aren't going to run into their seemingly every year roadblock?
Well, I did have on my list of playoff story ideas, Alex, why can't they beat the 49ers in the playoff story? I don't think I'll end up having to do that one. That probably crossed that off the list, but it's a little like, the Cowboys in the 90s, they couldn't beat them. And then finally in 96, they didn't have to play the Cowboys. And of course, we all know what happened. They went to the Super Bowl and won it. So, it's different. It's going to be different. There's a lot of comparisons that you can make to, Aaron Rodgers' second year in the playoffs. The first year they lost a heartbreaker in Arizona in that overtime game. Jordan Love lost a heartbreaker a little bit, in San Francisco. And then, can he follow suit and get on the run that Rodgers did the second year? But I will say this, I've learned this about this league, is there's no shortage of storylines. Like we'll find something to write about, to talk about, and it'll be interesting.
Yeah, you will. That's why you're employed. Last time I checked, actually. So I think you'll figure it out. Josh Jacobs has been so impressive, and he was actually pretty quiet the other night against the Dolphins. But revisiting, I remember talking to you in the offseason. It was a ballsy choice by Brian Gutekunst to move on from Aaron Jones, and it has seemingly worked out perfectly. What do you make of that addition to the offense and how Matt LaFleur has used him?
And the two biggest concerns with Jones, obviously he's a great player, right? But the two biggest concerns were his availability and pretty healthy in Minnesota. I think he had one injury where it was some concern, and then fumbling the football, right? I mean, that was always another Aaron Jones concern, at least, recently. And Jacobs fumbled in the first 2 weeks, including that one right at the goal line where he's about to score. It hasn't fumbled since, and he's been super reliable. I joked with somebody that if the Packers had run Aaron Jones as much as they've used Josh Jacobs, he probably would have had a hamstring and missed 3 weeks by now. But that's the great thing about Jacobs is he can handle this workload. And even though he didn't, do much in the run game the other day, he had 74 yards receiving, 49 of which on that little catch and run. And he's been over 100 yards from scrimmage. I believe it's 5 games in a row right now. And I think that's tied for the longest streak in the league. I don't know if it's longest active streak or all season, but I mean, that's production 101 right there.
No doubt. And, I mentioned he was quieter in terms of the running game, but still a huge factor in the passing game, including the big 49-yarder against Miami. Goes for math, not my specialty. I know you're referencing somebody who did math, but 43 on the ground, 74 in the air. That is over 100. I can do that math. So your stat is correct. What'd you do for Thanksgiving? I realized I didn't ask you this on Thursday on Green Bay. Did you do anything?
I watched the Lions game at home while my wife was cooking dinner for our 2 kids and one of my older son's teammates at Lawrence University who was from Colorado and couldn't go home, so came to our house. And then I left, and when I got home, there was like no leftovers. I got home about 1:30 in the morning, and there was almost nothing left. So apparently my younger sons had a couple friends over later. They finished off all the leftovers. So I really didn't get I mean, I got the Lambeau Thanksgiving, which, it was okay.
It's not home cooked Thanksgiving. Well, hold on. How do you handle that? You got to come home and discipline, right? I mean, that's not very thoughtful on a day of giving thanks to not leave you late.
No, but you know what? They need it more than I do, so I can stand to miss a meal here or there.
That's why I call you state champion. I'd be pissed though. I mean, I'm not handling that as well as you did. I mean, I'd still be disappointed. What is it? 4 days later?
Yeah.
So what were you most disappointed about? What's your wife's like best dish?
I mean,
is it
honestly
nothing?
just the turkey? Like I mean, I that's my probably my favorite part of it, and by all accounts, my sources told me it was a nice and juicy turkey here, and I didn't get any of it.
Your source being your wife, I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. There was
good
a commercial when we were kids growing up in Illinois. It was always like this family was going to their grandma's for Thanksgiving. I think it was like for one of the turkey, maybe it was like Butterball. And the kids were like, "We're going to grandma's. It's not going to be juicy." And then of course she used the Butterball and it was nice and juicy. So that was always a joke in my brother and I when we were growing up. If we had to go to a relative's house for Thanksgiving, it's not going to be juicy.
And it was, and you didn't get any. Lucky you. We talk storylines. What's your number one storyline for Thursday?
So a couple of things that we've got cooking at ESPN.com. We're going to do an NFC North roundtable with all the reporters in the division and sort of kind of assessing where each team is. And then I actually have a story on Jordan Love and just sort of his progression, starting with that play we talked about in Detroit where he threw that deep pass. And there's a great quote in there from Josh Myers, their center, about kind of how Jordan is in his demeanor and with teammates and how he handles people compared to, what Rodgers was at the end. To me, those are the two stories that I'm working on as far as storylines in the game. The one thing I think is really interesting, Alex, is that the Packers have started the same offensive line in all but one game this year. And the one game that they didn't was that Detroit game where they had to have Elton Jenkins go, from guard to play center. The rain was bad. They had trouble snapping the ball accurately in shotgun. But other than that game, their offensive line has been the same pretty much all season. I know they rotated Morgan a little bit in there at times, but the continuity that they've had on the offensive line, I would assume would serve them well in a loud environment like Detroit.
It's a great point, and I think it emphasizes the case of Josh Myers. Do you think, because he's on the last year of his deal, do you think there's a pretty good case they bring him back, or do you think they view it as oftentimes they do of, we could probably go draft the guy in the second or third round and develop him pretty quick?
That's my suspicion, the latter. You can't pay everybody. Although, if you look at their list of free agents coming up this offseason, there's really no must re-sign guy in there. Myers might be at the top. So maybe they make an exception there, but my suspicion is that it goes the way of John Runyon last year and that they let him go and sort of start over, just like they did. They let Runyon go and they got Sean Ryan in there. So, they drafted Jacob Monk, who hasn't played at all this year, but he's a mid-round pick that can play center. And as I've said many times, there's many people in that organization who believe Zach Tom could be their center.
Yeah, I believe the quote, and I know you love when we run with this, was, somebody told you he could be a Pro Bowl tackle, an all-pro guard, and a Hall of Fame center. That's
right. That is
so
right.
Not to get in the weeds in the middle of the season, because I know we'll do this in the offseason.
Yeah.
But is your suspicion at this point, Zach Tom goes to center, they try to fill that tackle spot?
Well, you wonder because, Jordan Morgan wants to play tackle, right? He made no bones about that when they drafted him. So is he a right tackle? I guess we'll see. It would be at this point hard to move Zach Tom from right tackle because I think he's allowed one sack maybe this year. Been so good. So, I don't know. They've got options. It'll depend on if they think Jacob Monk can be, a starting center. And we would only know from, what we see in games, and we don't see that. So they see it in practice, which we really don't see. I think that's to be determined.
Yeah, I'm with you. And that's going to be one of the fascinating storylines of the offseason. That's the interesting part when you have a team this young. It's like there's not that many dudes that are walking out the door for a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at the list lately, but I mean, it's Myers, it's Eric Stokes. I'm sure there's a few others, but it's not many. And there's no guy on that list that you like, well, they cannot let this guy go.
I don't think anybody's saying that about Eric Stokes. I'll tell you that much. Last thing for you, Rob. I'll wait till Thursday on Green Bay game day. We talked to you at 4:30 this week, so mark that in your mental calendar. I'll get your game pick then. I don't want a game pick, but I'm curious for you. If the Packers are to go into Detroit Thursday and win, you still think this division is available for the taking, or are you at the point where Packers are probably still too far out, even with a win Thursday?
I think a win sets them up, pretty well, because then they'd have, they have a Seattle team right on the road that's, in that 500 mix, certainly a winnable game. They come home and play the Saints, who have not had a good year. And then it's the 2 division games remaining to close the season, right? I mean, I don't think there's a game after this one that you say, they probably should be maybe favored in all those games, right? I mean, maybe not at Minnesota, unless Minnesota starts to lose. But like, I could see them winning any and all of those remaining games. So if they win this game Thursday, I think they're very much in the race for winning the division. Detroit still has to play Minnesota one more time, right? So I don't know what the rest of Detroit's schedule looks like, but I mean, I think the bottom line, Alex, I think if they lose, it's wild card time.
Yeah, and frankly, it might already be. Obviously, nobody in the building is thinking that way, but 2 games back of a team that just seemingly can't lose. It will be interesting to see. But we will see. We will talk to you Thursday, Rob. Always good stuff. Appreciate the time, brother. Thanks for doing it.
All right, you got it, man. Sounds good.
That's the great Rob Demovsky here on Mr. Relevant, presented by Door County Distillery. Always appreciate the time with Rob and the insights. I just feel bad for him. Got home after Thanksgiving, no food left for him. Tough break. Tough break by his kids. Inviting friends over to eat Rob's food that he didn't even get the chance to eat. That's brutal.
Yeah, there'd be some serious conversations.
That's what I said. And Rob's like, no, they need it more than me. It's fine. Come on, Rob.
What do you mean they need it more?
Gotta lay the smack down a little bit around there, brother. It's your domain.
Do the other kids not have a family?
No. One of his, he said it there. I don't know how intently you were listening,
Not
clearly. One of his kids plays basketball at Lawrence University. His friend who lives in Colorado couldn't go home for Thanksgiving, so he came over. And then his younger son, who's a senior in high school, invited some friends over for the Packers game, and they ate his food.
Yeah, keep your paws off the grub, pal.
I'm with you. Now, quick note before we move on to the Badgers' brutal loss to Minnesota. The Lions' remaining schedule. This is why I don't say count the Packers out yet. The Packers do need to win Thursday, obviously, but after that, Lions play the Bills 10 days after Thursday, next Sunday. Then they go to Chicago, go to San Francisco, host the Vikings in the regular season finale. So if the Packers win on Thursday, it is not over, but you're really rooting for the Bills the following week because that would make things a little bit more interesting. But the Packers likely do need to win out in order to win the NFC North. And I think you want your team playing the best football, winning 8 in a row going into the postseason. Just hope it's not, you're playing your best football these last 8 games rather than in the postseason. So anyway, that's the remainder of the Lions schedule. Okay, let's do it. Let's rip off the Band-Aid. Let's talk about it. Badgers lose 5 in a row to end the year. Their bowl streak likely over 22 years. Winning seasons are over 22 years. It's as disastrous as it's been in my lifetime, pretty much, outside of the early part of my life. It was really bad. I mean, it was embarrassing to watch Friday morning. And by the way, when that game was scheduled for an 11 a.m. kick on Black Friday, I imagine the network was probably like, yeah, 2 good teams, could be some bowl implications, it's a rivalry game. There was no excitement for this game. Badgers stink this year. And they showed no heart. Scored 7 points. There was nothing good. It was legitimately hard to watch. And the thing is, with Luke Fickell, look, I'm not ready to give up. I'm not saying fire Fickell. I'm not peddling that narrative yet. But next year is huge for him because if it looks like this, 5-7, 6-6, it's probably time to pull the plug. But you got to give him at least 3, if not 4 years. But I mean, nobody expected them to digress, regress.
Regress is what you're looking for. Digress would be what we did about, green beans.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. Good point. Nobody expects them to regress here in year 2 under Luke Fickell, and they did just that. Offensively, they've just been able to get nothing right, so this offensive coordinator hire is going to be huge. What they do at the quarterback position is going to be huge. Sounds like Tyler Van Dyke will be back next year, but do you really want him being your starter? I don't know that you do.
Hey, get a job, man.
It's kind of where I'm at as well. Your wins this year came over Western Michigan, South Dakota, Purdue, Rutgers, and Northwestern. Those are the only team you beat this year. I mean, that is pathetic. That's pathetic. You allowed Iowa to score 44 points? 42 points. You allowed Nebraska to score 44 points. You lost by 17 to Minnesota on your home field. Everything was horrible this year for Wisconsin. And I don't know how you make yourself feel a whole lot better about it. When's the last time the Badgers lost every trophy game? I mean, it has to be decades upon decades the last time that happened. This is brutally pathetic, what we saw this year. So, God, please, I hope they don't get invited to a bowl game. The issue is I think they're probably still going to.
Weren't they ruled out from that?
They may have been.
Aren't there enough 6-win teams by now? Hunter, do you know?
There might be. I haven't looked that deep into it.
I've checked out.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all in the same camp, right? Like, after what we watched on Friday, I don't give a damn.
I thought I saw a stray tweet about it.
Okay, I hope you're right, because I don't want to watch another 4 quarters of football. But you know me, I'm going to watch, because that's what I do with my teams. But this must be what it feels like to be a Bears fan. I mean, to have at least a little bit of expectations, and for them to just fall flat on their face, lose 5 in a row to end the season. And look, it was a difficult schedule. You had number 1 Oregon on the schedule. You had number 3 at the time, Penn State on the schedule. I get it. But Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota, lose all 3 of those? In the way in which you lost all 3 of those? 42-10, 44-25, 24-7. Like, you didn't even put up a fight in any of those games. You didn't even put up a fight. You didn't have a chance. Even after Vinny Anthony scored the early third quarter touchdown on Friday. Were any of us going, yeah, they're right back in this puppy? No. Like, okay, we're just delaying the inevitable, which is going to be they're probably not going to score anymore and lose embarrassingly, which is exactly what they did. This is as bad as this is rock bottom for Wisconsin football.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's mind-blowing for me because Luke Fickell really, he's doing everything else right. He's getting the recruits. They've got right now a top 20 recruiting class for next season. Like, he's getting the NIL money in there. I know people want to just assume that Wisconsin doesn't have NIL money. They're in like the top 30 in the nation when it comes to NIL. So they're doing the right things. Dude just can't figure out a way to get his team to win a football game. And that's what's so mind-blowing, is like that should be the first thing he should be able to do, given the profile that he has and the places he came from and what he did at Cincinnati. We should be talking about like, oh, maybe they need to do a better job with like recruiting the right type of offensive linemen. No, he's getting the guys. Like, other than the quarterback position, all these other recruits have been good. The wide receiver room this was the best wide receiver room that this program has maybe ever had. When it comes to top to bottom talent, it just can't get a quarterback, can't figure out a way to win games. And it's so mind-blowing. And I'm just like, I'm checked out. I made this comment on the ESPN Wisconsin College Game Day post-game show. I'm not going to a game next year. Until I start to actually see something from this program, I'm not giving UW football my money. I can't do it. Like, there's no reason for me to keep supporting a program until they can show that they actually are going in some sort of direction.
Okay. So I get your point. I just don't believe you. You'll still go.
No.
You're just hot right now, which is fine. You'll still go.
No, I'm not going.
But okay. We'll see. We'll circle back in September. The point, though, remains, right? Like, they've got to get it right. And recruiting's great, and stars are great, and NIL is great until you can't do anything. And as you see, some of these guys start entering the portal over the course of the next week, it'll give you at least a decent insight into what went awry, right? And I'm blanking on the name, Hunter. You saw the story, I'm sure. The defensive back that is leaving after 2 years.
Amari Snowden.
Chalked it up to, Amari Snowden, who did not have a relationship with the D-backs coach. Didn't have a relationship with him. It's problematic. It's an issue. I get you had other guys jump over you in the depth chart, but you have to have a relationship with your positional coach. And maybe he's the only one that feels that way. Or maybe it snowballs over the course of the next week, and you say, yeah, these guys just don't connect as well as we thought they were going to, and I didn't have the relationship. Mad City Bruce says maybe the kids/players don't like the coach, or the coach does not understand UW football history. I think he gets the history. I think he was trying to walk in and bring his own type of style of football, and clearly it's just not going to work, right? Phil Longo's air raid didn't work. But I still think he's a good football coach. We haven't seen it at Wisconsin yet. And the question becomes, how long do you wait for it?
I don't get the argument of not understanding UW's history and like what that has to do with anything. Because like Deion Sanders has done nothing with Colorado's history, and like they were in the playoffs.
History though is the issue.
But okay, great. Like, Georgia had a long history. Kirby Smart went in a different direction than Georgia's history. Dude won national titles. What does the history of a program have to do with winning the football games on the actual field? It doesn't.
Yeah,
but for some reason, we want to cling to it as fans.
Yeah, I think why the cling to it part exists is the pipeline of running backs, the pipeline of O-linemen. You're not winning battles in the trenches. The running game was mostly disastrous this year. Tyree Walker was up and down. Obviously, Ches Malusi leaves the program, and you just don't have a lot of options behind them. I get what you're saying. I get the point. But I think when you are in panic mode, everybody is grasping to everything as problematic and an issue. And while we're all upset, and while we're all disappointed, and while we're all irritated, of course, there's going to be some overreaction and overcorrection. And it's up to Luke Fickell and Chris McIntosh to make the right calls, both in terms of recruiting, NIL allocation, the transfer portal, hiring a new offensive coordinator. You got to get those things right, or else you're going to go through this again next year. So that was really, really hard to watch on Friday. I don't know why, but I held out hope they were going to win. I just thought, they'd find a way to get it done, 6-6, go win a bowl game, start over again next year. But here you are, rock bottom. See if Luke Fickell can turn it around. That's why you make this hire. You don't make it to hit rock bottom. You make that hire to turn it around from rock bottom and create a championship environment. So, all right. We're running late, so let's wrap it up as we always do. You learn something new every day. We learn something new today. It's time now for What We Learned. We will start in the Everlight Solar Studio with the ever-disappointed Hunter Vaughn.
And I am disappointed this time in Ryan Day and the soft Ohio State Buckeyes. Dude, you got your butts kicked 4 years in a row. Yeah, they're going to plant the flag at midfield. I'm tired of these teams trying to start fights because you lost for 60 minutes and now you're mad that somebody's going to talk crap. Like, do your fighting out there on the field. I don't get it.
Yeah,
it's soft.
It happened in how many games, Hunter? Was it 7 games? We saw a post-game scuffle due to a flag planted at midfield.
Yeah.
The simple answer and resolution to this is don't lose on your home field. This is what defending home field's all about. You lost the right to do that if you lose the football game. Let them plant the flag. Lost.
You don't get the right to disrespect somebody else's program just because you won.
Do you think it's that disrespectful, though? Is that serious to you?
That way. Yes.
Oh.
And that's why there was fisticuffs. Like, we saw the result. We saw the result. Like, that is how serious those teams take it. It elevates to a fight. So they are doing it to entice that exact reaction.
So you don't like it?
No, it's foolish. Why are people fighting, putting people at harm? Why are random people getting pepper sprayed because it is so unruly?
That part was crazy.
Yeah.
Josh, your take here, just so I understand, is that grown men who just played football for 60 minutes can't handle. They are 20 plus.
Grown men.
They're 20 plus years old.
Their brain's not fully developed.
Oh, okay.
Literally not how it
I'm
works.
sorry. Heaven forbid the 30 coaches they also have out there, and you have Ryan Day standing in the end zone looking like an idiot.
Plus athletes.
Except Sharon Moore was actually out there trying to stop it and actually doing something.
Did he stop it?
But
did he? What was the result?
He was still out there actually doing it. My point is,
you want more fights to happen. Good. All right. That's a good place for you to stand. Good. I'm glad. I like it. Like it's just foolish. It's being foolish.
It's foolish that they
Don't
feel
do
the
it.
need because
People
a poor
respect-
flag
people
was out
respect
on my
their
field.
program and the
Oh
history.
no, I have to run out
They
there and start
respect the
throwing hands
programs and
because
the
I can't
history.
check my emotions for 30 seconds and just walk back to the locker room because I lost a game. Oh no, I have to start fighting you now. Like,
if we want to
this
get
is
to the
on
sensitive
Ohio
conversation,
State.
I don't think
Ohio
you're gonna
State
win.
is soft. Ohio State's pathetic. Ohio State couldn't win the game for 4 years in a row, and they got in their feelings about it and got upset. Stop acting like this is
Great.
somehow on Michigan because Ohio State can't win a football game. Like, come on.
Not what I did, but thank you for your input.
All right. That was good. We got a little fisticuffs here. So, Joshy, does that make you the Ohio State in this equation?
No, I mean, I wanted Ohio State to lose. I was rooting against them.
No. I mean, in the verbal altercation we just witnessed, are you Ohio State there?
No.
You're Michigan?
I mean, the prevailing opinion and the one everyone's taking is don't lose on your whole field, da-da-da-da-da. It's not the same argument as if you don't like us dancing, keep us out of the end zone. That's not the same thing.
Why not? That
Because
second one
the
specifically.
contest is over, and you are going to rile up not only the fans, but the people who competed there. You already won. There is a thing called being graceful with winning.
That's
that
true.
exists as well.
But in rivalry week?
You could call it, what does it matter, rivalry week?
Wait.
It resulted in fighting.
Was there a fight?
Yeah, in like 7 games.
But was there a fight in Camp Randall when Minnesota went and chopped down the goalposts?
Well,
They do
the
that
team
every
doesn't have a
time.
fight. And they have gotten in fights before, if you remember.
They have.
Yes.
Okay, but was
just
there
not
one
this
this year, and was there one the year before that? Like,
Yeah, well, there wasn't a world war this year either, so what the hell does that matter? There are things that incite fights. Like, that's just how it is. If it results every time or not, doesn't matter.
It's true, but I don't know. I just think it's so Bush League. Like, I don't really care.
I think you could argue it's Bush League to run to
Yeah,
someone.
you're probably right. I think
Yes.
it goes both ways. What's the old saying? 2 wrongs don't make a right?
Correct.
Yeah. However,
Would I prefer
However-
teams just live with it? Yeah. You lost.
Yes.
I get it.
Right.
But if it's going to, like, we saw the result. This isn't saying, like, oh, there could be situations that arrive. We saw it escalate this weekend a way it had never done before. And now there's being pepper sprayed on, like, people there covering the game.
Yeah,
And, like, we're, like, not even police, like,
yeah, that's bad.
yeah.
That was bad. That was bad.
You can't have that. That's unacceptable.
That was bad. Yeah, that was good. Okay, nice job, fellas. That was a good what we learned. A little spirited debate there. Joshy, do you know what brain rot is?
Yes, I do.
Well, that is your 2024 Oxford Dictionary word of the year. Although it is words plural. Brain rot.
Yeah, you spend too much time on the internet. You know all the weird.
Yep.
What is the one that I learned about? Skibbity toilet.
Skibbity toilet, we bring the
Yes.
boom, all the in-betweens.
Yeah, all that stuff that is you have to be extremely online to understand. It is fitting because it does feel like this is the year of brain rot. To a degree, I don't know if I really remember, but I could just be getting older and less entertained by it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it lost out to Riz, which I thought probably had a good shot.
I feel like that's older than that.
I know that was in it. I lost my list now of all the words that were potential word of the years. But yeah, I mean, it was well deserved. Word of the year. Let's see if I can find the runner-ups quick before we end the show because I was fascinated by it. I liked it on Instagram. I don't know how you find your likes. So
I don't know either.
So
Not an Instagram guy.
that's all right. So yeah, brain rot, word of the year. This doesn't say what it lost out to. All right, well, we tried. That's all that mattered. Don't go plant your flag in the middle of a football field. And
I've got a quick what we learned.
oh, okay, wrap us up, Joshy.
On the Underdog app, I can only win 7 of 8. That's just my
Yeah,
issue.
that is what you know. But
I think it's fourth time this year.
I went 3 of 5 yesterday throughout the slate, so no monies for me. Had a college football win on Saturday, but NFL Sunday not my jam this week. Had a couple wins on Thursday, so that was good.
I do have to say the flex option has kept me afloat in a way that I really do appreciate.
Yes, me as well. Yeah, 2 of 3s, 3 of 4s. I'm with you there. Underdog app, use promo code Good Karma at sign up. GOODKARMA. Good Karma at sign up. Get a 50% deposit match. and win up to 1,000 times your money. All you got to do, play the Underdog Pick'em game on the app or on UnderdogFantasy.com. You look at players' projections on their stats. You click higher or lower. You can go anywhere between 2 and 8 picks. And like I said, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. Underdog app, UnderdogFantasy.com. All right, Joshy, go ahead.
I don't got anything.
You don't have anything for tonight?
Oh, for tonight? I do have an entry here. There is I should say.
Please be anti-Cortland Sutton. That's all I ask.
I have, let's look here. Bo Nix, it's 0.5 total yards. That is like your free roll
pick,
or whatever they call it. Not technically free. I do have higher on Cortland Sutton receptions.
Which is what?
6.5.
Oh, boy.
I got Myles Garrett over higher than half a sack. And Njoku higher than 49.5 receiving yards.
Okay, I like all of those except the Cortland Sutton one, so I will tail 3 of the 4 of those. All right, there's your picks for Monday night. We're back with you Wednesday to preview Lions-Packers. I think we're also going to do a little Marquette Badgers preview Wednesday, because I don't know if we'll have time for it on Friday with the Packers reaction show. What should I wear to the game? We'll dive into that a little bit on Wednesday, too. Mr. Relevant, presented by Door County Distillery. Thanks to Hunter. Thanks to Joshy. Thanks to Rob Demovsky. Thanks to intern Will. Thanks to Maddie Hayes. That does it for us. We'll talk to you Wednesday. Peace.